Hello everyone, how are you, and welcome to Siksha. This is class 9 science, and today we'll be starting the chapter the fundamental unit of life, which falls under biology. So let us look at the class contents of what we'll be discussing today. These are the class content. Today we'll be discussing the discovery of cell, the evolution of cell theory, and we will discuss a little bit about cells. Under this we will have what is cell, unicellular and multicellular organisms, and then division of liver. So let's start our today's class with a small story. The story begins like this. In the year 1665, an English botanist named Robert Hooke, he was observing various substances under his microscope, under his self-made microscope. So one day what he did is he was observing a thin slice of cork. Do you know what cork is? Well, cork is like a bottle stopper, mostly seen in wine bottles. So cork looks just like this. Cork, it is made from the upper bark of a tree named as cork oak tree. So one day he was observing a thin slice of cork under his self-made microscope, and he said that the thin slice of cork, it resembles the structure of that of a honeycomb. So he said the structure of the thin slice of cork which he was observing, the structure looks similar to that of a honeycomb structure. So he said the structure, it is hollow, it is like little rooms or little boxes, and these little rooms or little boxes are hollow, and hence he named the little room or the little boxes to be cells. So what is cell? Cell, it is derived from a Latin word called cellula, and cellula means a little hollow room. So at that time, Robert Hooke thought that this was a very small observation, but little did he know that his small little observation turned out to be one of the biggest discoveries in the entire biological science world. Yes, but there was a small problem with this discovery of his. He said that cells, what are cells? Coming from the Latin word cellula, he said these cells are little hollow rooms. The cells that he was observing under his microscope, the cork cells, those cells were dead cells. Why are they dead cells? We'll be discussing that in our future sessions. But let us stick to the fact that the cells that he was observing was dead cells, and hence he said that the cells are hollow. But actually not all cells are hollow. So although he did discover cells, but those cells were dead cells. So we need to also study the evolution of cell theory, or what are the other discoveries that proceeded after Robert Hooke discovered cells. So let us start with the evolution of cell theory. So after 1665, Robert Hooke, what he did, he discovered cells. He discovered cells, but in the year 1674, there was another scientist named Leeuwenhoek, and what he did is that he discovered the first free living cell in pond water, and the first free living cell was that of a Spirogyra. Okay, it's an algae, and he observed Spirogyra under his improved microscope. What Robert Hooke did was he discovered cell under his self-made microscope, but till the year 1674 a lot of advancement came. Microscopes were improved. So under an improved microscope, Leeuwenhoek discovered the first living cells in pond water, which is that of a Spirogyra. Okay. Then after that, in 1831, another scientist, Robert Brown, he discovered the nucleus in a cell. What is nucleus? We'll be discussing nucleus in brief. Okay, we'll be discussing nucleus in detail in our future sessions. But till for today, let us keep the definition of nucleus as the brain of the cell. So in 1831, Robert Brown discovered nucleus in a cell. After 1831, in 1839, another scientist, Perkin-J, coined the term protoplasm. What is protoplasm? Protoplasm is the fluid substance of a cell. Okay, so in 1839, Perkin-J coined the term protoplasm. After that, the cell theory was presented by two biologists. Who are the two biologists? Schleiden in 1838 and Schwann in 1839. They both collaborated and they both proposed the cell theory. The cell theory stated that all plants and animal cells are made of cells. Okay, all plants and animals are made of cells, and cells are the basic unit of life. Okay, but this was not everything that the cell theory consists of. In 1855, Virchow, another scientist, he added to the cell theory. The cell theory, initially there were only two postulates, is that all plants and animals consist of cells and cells are the basic unit of life. And then in 1855, Virchow added to the cell theory with another postulate, and he said that all existing cells are derived from pre-existing cells. Okay, so all cells that we have now, they are actually coming from pre-existing cells. And then last thing that we need to learn in the evolution of cell theory is that in 1940, what happened? The discovery of electron microscope took place. Okay, so this was all about the evolution of cell theory. It is there in your book and it is very important for us to know about this. So let us do a detailed analysis or a detailed discussion on cells. Okay, so let us start with what is cell. So what is cell? Cells are the smallest structural and functional unit of a living organism. Always remember this, cells are the smallest structural and functional unit of a living organisms. How big are the cells? These cells are microscopic. Robert Hooke discovered cell under his microscope. We cannot see cells via our naked eye, so they are microscopic. We can only see them via, through a microscope. See, they are microscopic and cannot be seen by our naked eye. Okay. So cells are smallest structural and functional unit of a living organisms. So as microscopes are improving, when was the electron microscope discovered? We discussed that, right? So after the after the first microscope, not the first, after the microscope that Robert Hooke used. So after that microscope, a lot of other microscopes came, a lot of improvements came, okay, a lot of advancement came. So as microscopes got improved, as the technology got advanced, so we started observing various things under the microscope. One of which is this. This is an example of cells of onion peel. Okay, if we take an onion peel and we observe it under a microscope, then we will see that the onion peel looks something like this. Now look closely at this diagram. Okay, if we look closely, then we will see that the cells of an onion peel, they are almost similar to one another. Yes, but the onion peel may or may not be similar. The onion bulbs, they come in different sizes. Even the onion, they come in different sizes, but the cells of an onion peel are almost similar. So can we say that irrespective of the shape and size of an organism is made of cells? Yes. Hence we come to our second point, which is cells are very small structures. Yes, they are microscopic, they cannot be seen via our naked eyes, and they are the basic building units of all organisms. That is, all organisms are made of cells. Irrespective of their shape or irrespective of their size, all organisms are made of cells. Just like the onion peel. The onions come in different shapes and sizes, some are big, some are small, but all onions or all living organisms in that matter are all made of cells. Okay. Next question that I think is coming to all of our minds is that how many cells make up an organism? Is it one cell that make up an organism? Is it two cells? Is it three? Is it four? How many cells makes up an organism? So under this topic, we need to study two things. Under this topic, we need to study two types of organisms. First, we have unicellular organisms, and then we will study multicellular organisms. So what are unicellular organisms? Unicellular organisms are organisms which constitute of a single cell. They constitute of a single cell, meaning one cell makes up the entire organism. Or if I reverse the sentence, I can say that an organism which is made up of only one cell. It has only one cell. So that kind of organisms or that type of organisms are known as unicellular organisms. It has only one cell. So everything, every work that organisms need to perform, for example, movement, digestion, excretion, every function needs to be performed by that one single cell. If examples of unicellular organisms are asked, then the examples may be amoeba, chlamydomonas, paramecium, bacteria, etc., etc., etc. Okay, a very unique feature of amoeba is that the amoeba cell, since it's a unicellular organism, the organism amoeba, which is made up of only one cell, amoeba cell can change its cell shape. It does not have a fixed cell shape. The cell shape can be changed. Next we have chlamydomonas. Chlamydomonas is a green colored algae. It is a green colored algae and it is also a unicellular organism, meaning it is made up of only one cell. Paramecium is also an unicellular organism and it is mostly found in stagnant water. Stagnant water, the water which is not moving, it is stagnant at a place. So in stagnant waters we can mostly find paramecium, which is a unicellular organism. And then comes our bacteria. Bacteria comes in different shapes, different sizes. Some are good bacteria, some are bad bacteria. Some bacteria lives in colonies, some lives alone. So some bacteria are good for our health, some are bad for our health. So there are many kinds of bacteria, and bacteria is a unicellular organism. Okay. A quick interesting fact is that bacteria is one of the first organisms. It is not the first organism, but it is one of the first organisms to ever exist in Earth. Okay, so it is a very old organism and we can still find it in our day-to-day life. Next we have multicellular organisms. What are multicellular organisms? Multicellular organisms are organisms which constitute of many cells. Unicellular organisms have only one cell, whereas multicellular organisms have a lot of cells. They have many cells. Okay, where cells group together to form various body parts and assume different functions. So in multicellular organisms, since they have a lot of cells, what the cells do is that they group together, they clutter together, they group together, and they form various body parts. The cells, they group together, they form various body organs, they form various body parts, and these body organs or body parts, what they do is that they assume different functions. In unicellular organisms, there was only one cell, so all the functions that one particular cell has to perform. But in multicellular organisms, the cells, they group together, they form different body parts, different organs, and these different parts and different body organs, they perform various functions of their own. Examples of multicellular organisms, we have fungi, we have plants, we have animals, etc. In fact, we are also multicellular organisms. Okay, coming to human beings, let's look at this picture. In human being, since we are multicellular organisms, we have different kind of cells in our body. For example, we have blood cells, we have sperm cell, we have ovum, then here we have muscle cells. If we look here, this is the bone cell, fat cell, nerve cell. We have different kind of cells in our body. These cells may or may not look similar. As you can see here, all these cells, they look different, the shapes are different, the sizes are different, and in fact their functions are also different. Yes, so human beings, they are multicellular organisms. We have different kind of cells in our body. All these different kind of cells, they perform different functions, and these cells, the shapes of these cells are different, the sizes of these cells are different. Yes, but all cells are very important in our body. So this is all about how many cells make up an organism. One cell can also make up an organism, and multiple cells group together and they can also make up an organism. Okay, so what is the next thing that we need to see? The shape and size of cells. We were already discussing about the shape and size of cells. So under this topic, we have the shapes and size of cells are related to specific functions they perform. Now, I said that in a multicellular organisms, we have different kind of cells. Yes, these cells may or may not look similar. They have different shapes, they have different sizes. But why do we have different shapes and different sizes? Why do these cells have different shapes and different sizes? The shapes and sizes depend on the functions they perform. Okay, since different cells have different functions to perform, that is why they have different shapes and different sizes. So hence come the first point, the shapes and sizes of points are related to their specific functions they perform. Some have changing shapes like amoeba. I already told you this point that amoeba, what is amoeba? Amoeba is a unicellular organism. Amoeba has only one cell, and a special feature about amoeba is that one particular cell of amoeba, it can change its shape according to its need. So the amoeba cell has the characteristics or has the ability to change its shape, whereas other cells, just like nerve cell or our bone cells, muscle cells, they do not change their shape. They have a fixed shape, they have a fixed size. For example, this is our nerve cell and this is our amoeba. Amoeba cell can change its shape and size, whereas nerve cell or any other cell in our body, for example the sperm cell, the ovum, they cannot change its shape and size. So under shape and size we have, why are the shapes and sizes different? Because they need to perform specific functions, hence they have different shapes and sizes. Some cells can change its shape, for example amoeba, and some cannot, just like the nerve cell in the human body. Okay, let's move on to the next topic, division of labor. Now in one of the earlier slides we have discussed that cell is the smallest functional and structural unit. Yes, this is the basic functional and structural unit. Why is it known as the basic structural unit? Because a living organism, no matter how big or how small they all are made up of cells. Yes, so hence it is known as the basic structural unit of a living organism. But why are they called the basic functional unit of a living organism? Because in a living organisms, okay, let me frame it in some other way. A living organism need to perform a lot of work. For example, us, we humans, we need to walk around, we need to go to school, we need to work, we need to eat, we need to play. So there are a lot of work that we need to perform. Yes, all these works, okay, how are we performing them? Our eyes, we use our eyes to see things. Yes, via our nose we breathe in air, then our lungs take that air, there is an exchange of gases taking place. Then our stomach is a part of the digestive system. Yes, our muscle cells, they help us move our limbs. Yes, so different parts of our body are responsible to different actions. They have specific functions of their own. So this is known as division of labor. Yes, is groups, they divide among themselves, they make groups and they divide the work that a living body needs to perform. For example, us, there are muscle cells which are responsible for movement of muscles, for movement of limbs. Our respiratory system is responsible for taking in and giving out gases. Our digestive system is responsible for taking in food, extracting the energy. Yes, so this is division of labor in a multicellular organisms. Now multicellular organisms are made up of cells. All the functions that the multicellular organisms need to perform, those functions are also performed by cells. Yes, all those functions that a multicellular organism or an organism in general needs to perform, all those functions are also performed by cells. Or we can say that all the functions, they are performed from the cellular level onwards. This is why cells are known as the basic functional unit of life. So let's see here. In a human body, different body parts perform different body functions. This is division of labor in human body. I think we have already discussed this point. Similarly, division of labor is seen within a single cell as well. Each cell has certain specific components within it known as cell organelles. Just like in our body, we have different body organs. Similarly, in a cell, there are different cellular components which are responsible for different functions. And these components are known as cell organelles. They are known as cell organelles. Each kind of cell organelles perform a special function. All of these different cell organelles that the cell have, they are all responsible for different kinds of functions and they perform their functions in a different manner. These organelles together constitute the basic unit called cell, and these organelles, they together group up and they together constitute the basic unit of life, the basic unit called the cell. So are you clear with division of labor? Okay, so this was all for our today's class, but before leaving, let us do a quick summary of what are the points that we studied in our today's class. So this is the summary. So first, thing that we studied was cells are the smallest structural and functional unit of a living organism. Yes, all organisms are made up of cells. No matter how big or how small the organism is always made up of cells. An organism may constitute of a single cell or multi-cell grouped together. We studied unicellular and multicellular organisms. And organisms may constitute of a single cell just like amoeba, or it may also consist of multiple cells just like us human beings. The shape and sizes of cells are related to the specific functions they perform. All the cells in our body, they have different functions and hence their shapes and sizes are different. So if we reverse the sentence, we can say that the shapes and sizes of cells are different because they need to perform different functions. Cells perform their work by division of labor. Yes, just like us, different body organs are responsible for different body functions. Similarly, in cells also there are different components which are responsible for different cellular functions. Each cell has certain specific components within it known as cell organelles, which together constitute a cell. So this was all that we had to discuss in our today's class. In our next class, we will be moving one step further and we will be discussing what are these cell components. Okay, what a cell consists of. So in our next class, we will be studying the structure of a cell. So this is all for today. Thank you for joining our today's class and I'll see you in the next.